Good morning, sunshines. We just got back from our first outing, 2 weeks postpartum, which is so crazy. I think she really likes the stroller. We put her in a stroller and took her outside. She lasts 40 minutes on the dot, and then she wants to come back. It gets a little bit fussy and feet and everything, but we just put her down for a nap. Definitely doing it in the early mornings so that she doesn't get all hot and everything, but that felt really good to get out of that apartment. I have been stuck in four walls for far too long. I have made my decision on my postpartum TBR list. So we're gonna go through, talk about the books we've discussed, maybe add a few extra ones in that are just new releases that I want to read, but may not necessarily be adding them to my official postpartum TBR. I have some FOMO on some of these books, and I don't know if they'll be my vibe or not, but we're gonna try them and find out because we have the time to, so why not? And let's see if we can get this done before she wakes up from her nap. She's been down for like an hour, so we might be pushing the limits a little bit on that one. Okay, first up on the TBR list, which is also going to be our shortest read, I think, is The Correspondent. I know nothing about this book other than the fact that I know it's short and it's written in letters. So to me, if I don't like it, it's not going to take much time for me to just get through it and kind of check it off my list and not have the FOMO of it anymore. So I am going to be adding that to the TBR officially. It's by Virginia Evans. Also, the description I'm going to share because I know nothing about most of these books. I like to go into books blind. I might read like a sentence or two, but for the sake of this video, we're going to talk about them together. And then you can kind of say, yes, you should read it, or you can dissuade me. Is that a word? Dissuade me? Unpersuade me? Whatever, from any of these books if you want to, and maybe I'll change some of them out before we do a book shopping video. That's going to be a separate one because that'll be a whole nother outing of getting her in the car. The description, it says, imagine the letters one has sent out into the world. The letters received back in turn are like the pieces of a magnificent puzzle. Isn't there something wonderful in that? To think that a story of one's life is preserved in some way, that this very letter may one day mean something, even if it is a very small something to someone. Filled with knowledge that only comes from a life fully lived, The Correspondent is a gem of a novel about the power of finding solace in literature and connection with people we might never meet in person. It is about the hubris of youth and the wisdom of old age and the mistakes and acts of kindness that occur during a lifetime. Sybil Van Antwerp has throughout her life used letters to make sense of the world and her place in it. Most mornings around 10:30, Sybil sits down to write letters to her brother, to her best friend, to the president of the university who will not allow her to audit a class she desperately wants to take, to Joan Didion and Larry McMurtry to tell them what she thinks of their latest books, and to one person to whom she writes often yet never sends the letter. Sybil expects her world to go on as it always has. A mother, grandmother, wife, divorcee, distinguished lawyer, she has lived a very full life, but when letters from someone in her past force her to examine one of the most painful periods of her life, she realizes that the letter she has been writing over the years needs to be read, and that she cannot move forward until she finds it in her heart to offer forgiveness. Sybil Van Antwerp's life of letters might be a very small thing, but she also might be one of the most memorable characters you will ever read. Interesting name choice. I wonder if there's like any kind of truth to the story or like something she's pulling from. Not really sure, but it has a lot of 5-star ratings and it has an average of 4.46 stars with over 665,000 ratings on it. So that's pretty good. I'm hoping I like it. Like I said, it won't be a waste of time. If so, it's so short. It's literally only 285 pages in its letters. But I'm very intrigued by that. It seems very poetic. Definitely out of my comfort zone, though. We'll see how that one goes. That'll probably be first up on my TBR list, honestly, and just knock it out. I really want to get a physical copy, though, but I haven't been able to find the paperback, so I've kind of been waiting it out on that, but we might just buy the bullet and get the hardback if that's the case, honestly, so we'll see. I think she might be waking up, so you might have to pause this video for a second. Okay, we're good. She was just wiggling a little bit. So next we have book number 2, which is Into the Blue by Emma Brody. I, again, know nothing about this book, so I will read the description. Sometimes I will pick books based off of like booktubers where we have like similar reading styles, or if I like watch a reading vlog and it kind of seems like I might like the vibe of the book, then I'll just kind of add it to my list and draw from there. But I've heard really good things about this book. I've never read anything by this author. I'm not sure if it's a debut novel or not, but it's by Emma Brody. And for the description, it says, from the award-winning author, okay, so not a debut novel. Got it. From the award-winning author of Songs and Ursa Major comes an epic, decade-spanning love story that blazes through the worlds of acting and comedy and charts and connections so powerful it might just break space and time itself. In the summer of 2000, AJ Grace dreams of writing for SNL. Instead, she's stuck working in a video rental store with slim odds of escaping her Massachusetts small town and large family. Then in walks Noah Drew, the enigmatic and intense scion of the Drew acting dynasty, and her life changes forever. Despite wildly different upbringings, the two forge a deep cosmic bond, first as friends, then as acting partners, until one day Noah disappears without a word. 7 years later in New York City, AJ is shocked to find herself cast in the same intergalactic TV production as Noah, by then a well-known Hollywood heartthrob. As their on-screen characters grow closer every day, the lines between reality and acting begin to blur. Unable to stay away from each other, AJ and Noah are forced to confront the truth of what happened years ago and the devastating secret that will send their lives careening apart even as fate continues to draw them together. Blending unforgettable characters, explosive chemistry, and devastating emotion into the blue is a journey unlike any other, one that asks, what does it mean to diverge from the script to forge your own story? I think I will definitely like this one, so long as I like the writing style. I haven't ever heard of Songs in Ursa Major, so that might be one that I can circle back to if we really like this one. I'd never even seen the cover of that first book either, but this one I definitely have, and I'll put a picture of all of the books up here too, just in case. But I'm very intrigued by this one. It's a little bit longer. It's 448 pages, but it already has over 50,000 ratings on it, which I feel like is pretty quick for, you know, she only has one other book and it's only been out a couple of months, if that, but it has an average of 4.1 stars. So that's going to be an interesting one to test out. New author to find too. Maybe we'll have a new favorite author to add to the list, because I feel like I've been struggling on the new author department lately. Okay, I recently read All the Bright Years, which I ended up loving that book, and that author came out with another book in May. So we are definitely adding that one to my TBR. Will I find it in paperback? Probably not, but will I probably buy this book anyway? Probably, because maybe we'll get it on Kindle first and then decide if we're going to buy it. I feel like I need to stop buying books, and then if I don't like them, I'm kind of stuck with them because I have a problem with unhauling books. I don't unhaul books. But anywho, the new book is The Burning Side, and it's by Sarah, I may butcher this last name, Demoff? No clue how to pronounce that, so I'm so sorry about that. But The Burning Side, it has a very interesting cover too, so we'll see how that goes. No clue what it's about, so let's find out together. From the author of The Bright Years, the story of April and Leo, a couple on the brink of collapse. When their house goes up in flames, family secrets and thorny histories emerge as they are forced to decide what is worth salvaging. When April and Leo's house burns in the middle of the night, they escape with 2 young children and the quiet knowledge that the fire is not the only thing threatening their family. They retreat to April's childhood home in Dallas, where her spirited parents and siblings provide both comfort and complication. As the family reckons with the aftermath, grief, guilt, logistics, and memories scorched and intact, the fire exposes the cracks already forming in April and Leo's marriage. The novel unfolds in alternating perspectives, from April, who feels the crushing weight of motherhood, marriage, and self-blame; from Leo, a high school history teacher shaped by a lonely, fractured childhood; from Deb, April's generous and no-nonsense mother who has to contend with her husband's recent Alzheimer's diagnosis; and from flashbacks that trace April and Leo's relationship from its earliest days of connection to the devastating decisions that led them there. A family saga suffused with humor, longing, and heartbreak. The Burning Side is about what we inherit and what we choose, about forgiveness and the ache of being known. It is above all about the meaning of home and the costs of long love. I'm very interested in that. However, it seems like a lot of perspective change. Don't know if I'm gonna love that. I love a dual POV, so if it was just April and Leo, I feel like I would really like that, but it seems like it's more than that. Plus, it's also gonna shift back in time to go through their relationship. So I'm wondering if that might be a little bit too much, but I guess we'll find out. It already has 24,000 ratings and an average of 4.31. So this author seems to be a favorite for everyone. This book just came out in May, so again, that's really good. Even better than the last one, to be honest. And I loved All the Bright Years. So, or not All the Bright Years, The Bright Years. Isn't that a different book, All the Bright Years? I might be combining book titles on that one. Definitely high up there on what I want to read, though. I'm very interested in that now that I actually know what it's about. All right, this next book has been a hot commodity lately. It's Yesteryear. It's by Caro Claire Burke, and I went back and forth on whether I was going to read this or not because I know it's about a trad wife. However, I listened to the Always Here podcast, which if you haven't listened to that, it's with Abby Howard and Abby Howard. I love that podcast. It's just a fun little girl time podcast that comes out on Fridays, but they do a book a month, and this was one of them, and they said they weren't offended by it by any means and that they actually found a lot of humor in it. So I'm intrigued to see if that's the case. I was a little worried when I heard it was about like a trad wife and she's, I think, an influencer. I was a little worried it was going to be kind of offensive because being a stay-at-home mom and a trad wife is not always easy by any means. I would go as far to say is it's not easy in general. So I think that can depend on your circumstances. If you're crazy rich and having someone else basically take care of your kid while you stay home, then maybe that's different, but I don't think being a trad wife is necessarily easy. So I ended up adding it after they said they weren't offended by it and just hearing some other perspectives on it. But the actual description: it's a traditional American woman or a trad wife influencer suddenly awakens in the brutal reality of 1855, where she must unravel whether this living nightmare is an elaborate hoax, a twisted reality show, or something far more sinister in this sensational debut novel. So there's some time travel in here. Interesting. I didn't realize that. My name was Natalie Heller Mills, and I was perfect at being alive. Natalie lives a traditional lifestyle. Her charming farmhouse is rustic, her husband a handsome cowboy, her 6 children, each more delightful than the last. So what if there are nannies and producers behind the scenes? Her kitchen hiding industrial-grade fridges and ovens, her husband the heir to a political dynasty. What Natalie's followers, all 8 million of them, wow, don't know, won't hurt them, and the angry women, the privileged Ivy League coastal elite haters who call her the anti-feminist iconoclast, iconoclast? Is that? I've never heard of that word before. The anti-feminist icon, I feel like would have made more sense than that. They're sick with jealousy because Natalie isn't simply living the good life, she's living the ideal and just so happens to be building an empire from it. Until one morning she wakes up in a life that isn't hers. Her home, her husband, her children, they are all familiar, but something's off. Her kitchen is warmed by sputtering fire rather than electricity. Her children are dirty and strange, and her soft-handed husband is suddenly a competent farmer. Just yesterday, Natalie was curating photos of homemade jam for her Instagram, and now she's expecting to haul firewood and hand-wash clothes until her fingers bleed. Has she become the unwitting star of a ruthless reality show? Could it really be time travel? Is she being tested by God, by Satan? When Natalie suffers a brutal injury in the woods, she realizes 2 things. This is not her beautiful life, and she must escape by any means possible. A gripping, electrifying novel that is as darkly funny as it is frightening. Yesteryear is a gimlet-eyed look at tradition, fame, faith, and the grand performance of womanhood. Sounds interesting. I don't think I realized the kind of like magical realism element of the time travel that pops into this. So, and it sounds like she's a fake influencer, not fake, like she's an influencer, but she fakes being a trad wife to kind of get her following. So that's interesting too, because I feel like that probably is a thing more often than we even know with the people that we follow. So we'll see if we like that. Hopefully nothing in it is like offensive or blown out of proportion, and it just kind of keeps it lighthearted and funny, but I guess we have to read it to find out together. Okay, next we have The Calamity Club by Catherine Stockett. This is going to be my last postpartum TBR, like official TBR. I just picked 5 books for that, but then I have a few books that are new releases that are coming out that I want to read as well. They just aren't going on like my official TBR. We get to them when we get to them, because some of them I think are summer vibes, and if we don't get to them by summer, we might save them for next time when the weather gets warmer. But The Calamity Club, this one has popped up randomly for me and it just looked intriguing, so I kind of added it to my want to read on Goodreads. Also, shout out Goodreads, they finally added the DNF section that you can put your books, and it took them far too long to add that on there. It was ridiculous in my opinion. But this one has an average of 4.59 stars and it has 62,000 ratings, so 8,000 reviews. Interesting. Let's see what it's about. In 1933, Oxford, Mississippi, prohibition is on the wane and the Great Depression is tightening its grip. Poor and rich folks alike have fallen on hard times, even as the old social order remains. For women in the margins, the options are few and the price of dignity and self-determination is unbearably high. 11-year-old Meg, one of the unadoptable big girls at the Lafayette County Orphan Asylum, fights each day to keep her spirit unbowed. Birdie, unmarried and outspoken, has come to Oxford on a mission to ask her social climbing sister to help the struggling family she's left behind. And Charlie is a woman with a past, running low on luck but driven by fire, fury, and grit. When their fates converge, they come up with an audacious plan to take back control of their lives. Together they form an unlikely sisterhood, but in a place and time where hypocrisy is rife, women's freedom is fragile, and making an enemy can have dire consequences. Will the price they pay for their outrageous risk-taking be too high? The Calamity Club will make you laugh, cry, and cheer, an epic testament to resilience, friendship, and the fierce, funny women who know that calamity can be the spark of new beginnings. This is Catherine Stockett at her most confident, heartfelt, and hilarious, the triumphant return of one of the most beloved storytellers of our time. I've never heard of Catherine Stockett, so maybe I just live under a rock. I read a lot of books, so I feel like I would have heard of her. But my baby's waking up. Give me a sec. All right, somebody woke up hungry and with a poopy diaper, so we had to take care of that first. But while she's feeding, let's continue on with our list of things, of course. So those are my 5 postpartum official TBR books that I want to read before I go back to work. So we have a little while to do that, of course. And then there are a few new releases that honestly I didn't even realize were coming out. So I'm going to go through those. I'm really sad because I know Emily Henry is not coming out with a new book this year, and I googled it just to make sure. It's because, you know, all of her books are being made into, I think, movies. I don't know if any of them are going to be TV shows, but I know they're all going to be movies at some point. And so I heard she's taking the year off to focus on the movies, which, hey, as long as she has a say in those, that means they're hopefully, fingers crossed, hopefully going to turn out more like the books and be even better, is what my thought process is. So I guess you can take a year off, girl. You've done enough, whatever. I'm really sad about it though. I know Ashley Poston has a new book coming out, so that one I definitely want to read. She always does a little bit of magical realism elements within her books, which I love. I just think it makes it so fun and whimsical whenever that's thrown in there. And then Catherine Center also has a new book coming out, which that was a new author I found, I think, last year. It may have been almost 2 years ago now, which is crazy to say. I feel like it was just yesterday. But Ashley Poston's new book is called The Someday Garden, and I'm not sure what it's about. It comes out June 16th. Actually, it just came out. What is today? The 25th? Yeah, it came out last week. Maybe we can snag that while we're out this weekend. I didn't realize it was already out. I thought it came out next month. That's exciting. Yay. Maybe we should just throw that onto the postpartum TBR anyway. Okay. This one, the description says, the new head gardener at the enchanting Lilymore house stumbles upon a secret garden with a mysterious man trapped inside in the next magical novel from the New York Times bestselling author of Sounds Like Love and the 7-Year Slip. When Sophie Dreer, we have the same name, I love it already. When Sophie plans her escape to coastal Maine for the summer for a temporary job revitalizing the storied grounds at Lilymore House, she doesn't expect to fall in love. But she, with the beguiling land, the fragrant flowers, and the towering hedge maze, with the quirky staff and the enigmatic woman who owns the place. And then the door appears, never in the same place twice. It leads her to a secret and unfinished garden with the frustrated thundercloud of a man trapped inside. This mysterious garden is not the only sign that the future of Lilymore is the foliage. What? Lilymore is the foliage resists. I think it means as the foliage resists Sophie's careful nurturing. Yeah. Vines threaten to strangle the hedges, and the manor's owner has wild ideas about who will take over when she retires, including her inconveniently attractive nephew, who is also there just for the summer. Despite herself, Sophie has come to care for its grounds. With the help of one man on the outside of the secret garden and one man on the inside, she might be the only person who can figure out exactly what Lilymore needs to bloom once more. Okay. I'm excited for that. I think I'll like it, hopefully. I love that we share a name. Then our next book, let's see when it comes out. We have Catherine Center's, which is called The Shippers. And that one comes out, that one's also out. Oh my gosh, so exciting. Also, if you're hearing her, she's fine. She just gets really excited when she feeds, promise. No need to worry, just newborn things. They make so many weird little sounds. I saw a video on that of just like random things newborns do that you didn't know, where they'll make like little piggy sounds or just squeaky sounds. They sound like a squeaky toy 90% of the time. That was shocking at first. When she started feeding and would make these sounds, I was like, she's dying. She's not. It's been 2 weeks of this and she's good. Anywho, this one came out in May for The Shippers, and it's by Catherine Center, so I didn't know that was already out either. She wants him to help her woo someone else. Genius. Foolproof. Can't go wrong. After a whole lifetime of being bad at love, JoJo Burton decides to solve her intimacy issues once and for all at her sister's destination wedding on a cruise ship. Armed with pop psychology, she diagnoses herself with a fixation on the neighborhood guy who was her first crush and first kiss, and who just happens to be a newly divorced wedding guest. Determined to woo him for closure, she ropes in her childhood bestie Cooper Watts as her wingman. Cooper, who RSVP'd no but showed up anyway. Cooper, who moved to London without a word 4 years ago. Cooper, who broke her heart. Shipboard antics abound in this witty, heart-tugging childhood friends-to-lover romance as JoJo and Cooper team up, fake flirt, slow dance, share a cabin, sing duets, get jealous, answer long-held questions, and finally at last discover truths about each other that will change everything. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how I feel about that one. It's probably not going to be high on my list of things to read. The cover's funny. It's cheesy, but I don't know that that really sounds up my alley, and it only has an average rating of 3.88 stars, which that means nothing, obviously, you know, everyone to each their own, and it has 31,000 ratings, and that's the average. So I don't know that that one's going to be high on the list of priorities for sure, but we'll probably still read it at some point. Oh, give me thick. And so far in the last 2 weeks since she's been born, I've read 2 books, almost done with the 3rd book. I'll be finishing it today. Are you okay, babe? Yeah. I think it's so funny when they take breaks. But we read a few books prior to her being born, of course, while I was already off of work. And then afterwards, in the last 2 weeks, I read Firefly Lane and the 2nd book, Fly Away, by Kristen Hanna, which I actually ended up enjoying those a lot more than I thought. I need to watch the show now. I thought I was going to get really bored with it just because I feel like Kristen Hanna can tend to drag out her books. They have very meaningful and interesting plots, but I feel like they can always be like 100 pages shorter than they actually are. These ones, I actually did appreciate them. I don't feel like the 2nd book was necessary, and it's definitely a lot more depressing than the 1st book was. The 1st book, you're following your 2 best friends, and they're going through life, you know, in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. They have their falling outs, their ups and downs, getting married, starting families, all of that. And then like a tragic twist at the end. The 2nd book is a lot more about just like grief and found family and the importance of found family to get through a life change like that. It definitely isn't a necessary read, but I'm intrigued to see watching the show if that's like, they made 2 seasons. I have no clue how they separated that out. But I ended up giving Firefly Lane 4 stars. It wasn't a 5-star read for me. I just had a lot of fun reading it. Also, I get a lot of reading done. Everyone's like, you're not gonna have time once the baby comes. Contrary to that, when you are feeding your baby, you have nothing else to do. You're kind of stuck if you're breastfeeding. So especially when I wake up during the night, I need something to keep me awake while I'm feeding her. And so I have my Kindle just sit in the pocket of my rocking chair that's in our room, and I'll sit there and read. So I actually get a lot of reading done, I will say, because those are both pretty lengthy books that I read and got done just within the first 2 weeks of her. And I didn't read anything for the few days that I was in the hospital. I brought a book, but we were too busy just like adjusting to newborn life and everything. But Firefly Lane's like almost 500 pages, and I don't know, the 2nd one's about 400, a little over 400 pages. So that was a good chunk that I did in 2 weeks. And then I'm also currently reading The Unmaking of June Farrow, which I'm also liking more than I expected. I'm not obsessed with it. I think it's probably going to end up being about 3.5 stars. I have literally 2 chapters left of it, so we'll see how it wraps up and if we love it or not. I think a lot of people gave this one usually 4 or 5 stars. Let's see. An average rating of 4.1 stars, and it has 207,000 ratings on it. So I don't know if that's necessarily good or bad. I feel like that's pretty good. It won't be a 5-star read for me for sure, but it was definitely an interesting read. I have discovered that I love books with that magical realism kind of element in there, and this one has a little bit of time travel in there. So I'm pretty excited for some of those other reads that I have picked out to kind of see how they track, and if that's just maybe my new genre. We'll see. If you have read any of these books and you want to dissuade me from reading any of them, please comment down below. I'm open to suggestions. I have no clue if I'm gonna like any of these. Like I said, most of the time I go into books blind, so the fact that we've read the descriptions together, that's more than I usually do. We'll see how it goes. And if there are any new releases that I'm missing, also please comment them, because I feel like they haven't been shared as much as they usually are. Usually I am like on those new releases. I know when they're coming out. There's like release parties and everything, and I feel like I don't really hear about any of that kind of stuff anymore unless it's for a major like fantasy novel or something like that, like if they did for Fourth Wing or for Sarah J Maas books and all of that. That's pretty well advertised as always. But like, comment, subscribe. I would love to follow along with you guys in the little community that we are building here. If you have any postpartum book recommendations, please let me know. If you want to dissuade me from reading any of these books, also let me know. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!